Hey go-getters, have you ever heard of the statement, leaders are readers? Well, if you want to lead your life to achieve those aspirational goals, well, it's simple. You have to read consistently. Personally, I've set a goal to read one book per month, so that's 12 books per year. I am also a big believer in sharing, so that's why I have decided to start the Book Club, a series of book review video summaries where I'll be sharing with you guys the knowledge and insights I learn from the books that I read. The cool thing about it is that you'll be able to get essentially the key lessons that I take from the book, but more importantly, I hope it will pique your interest to actually want to go buy and read that particular book if you haven't read it before. So as you can see behind me is my library, part of my library actually, where I keep some of my books. So today we're going to pick the first book we're going to review in the book club. So let's take a look. I think this one is cool. Nice and thick. So the first book we're going to review is Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. Okay, so before we dive in, remember, click the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of the amazing content that the This Is My Era team will be creating for you. As I was reading the book, I realized that achieving financial freedom really is not complicated. You just need access to the right information and the right strategies. But more importantly, you need to take action. So knowing the information that's in the book is just potential power, right? You hear the statement, knowledge is power. Well, knowledge is potential power. You taking action, that's where the true power lies. So before I go into the summary, I just wanted to let you guys know that you might listen to all this information, you might take a lot of notes, but if you don't actually take the necessary steps to put these concepts into motion, you will never really achieve that financial freedom that you're trying to achieve in your life. So Money Master the Game, 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom. As you can see, it's a really thick book, more than 600 pages. It's filled with so much information around finance and how to manage money. And Tony Robbins interviewed more than 50 of the best financial minds in the game. So think of Warren Buffett, Paul Tudor Jones, Ray Dalio. They got to sit down with Tony and give him exclusive information on how they manage their money and how they've been able to become wealthy. Tony Robbins spent about 4 years conducting interviews and researching to come up with this book. I mean, it has a lot of information that he's been able to distill into this book, and the information really covers how you can manage your money, the types of vehicles you can use to create wealth, how to avoid overpaying on taxes, and some of the things that you just need to think about as you're managing your money and preparing for retirement, and how to avoid paying high fees in some of these financial instruments that people invest in. So one of the first key takeaways that I got from the book was you need to get into the game. You see, if you don't play, you won't win. So it's super important for you to actually start investing, right? If you don't start investing, you will never really achieve that financial freedom that you want to achieve. A lot of people, they don't buy stocks, they don't buy bonds, they're not even participating in the 401ks or retirement accounts offered by their employers. Now, if you don't participate in all these different vehicles, you're never really going to achieve that financial freedom that you're trying to achieve for your life. So the first key thing is get into the game. Start investing. Start putting money aside into your savings account for your future. Because by just getting into the game, you've already taken that first step to achieve that financial freedom that you want to achieve in your life. Now, the second takeaway that I got from the book that really ties into takeaway number 1 is do not underestimate the exponential power of compound interest. Albert Einstein, one of the geniuses of mankind, once called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. Now, compound interest is a super powerful tool, right? Because your money gets to earn interest on the interest that it earned on top of the principal. In the book, it talks about a story on page 51. When Benjamin Franklin, when he died in 1790, he left $1,000 for the city of Boston and another $1,000 for the city of Philadelphia. And he had a condition, right? And it talks about that the money was to be invested and it could not be touched for 100 years because he really wanted that $1,000 to compound year over year, month over month for 100 years before the cities could actually start using that money for public work projects. And after the first 100 years, they could only withdraw up to 500,000 and leave the remaining balance for another 100 years before they could touch it. Now, what's interesting is that over that 200-year period, from 1790 to 1990, the average compounded rate was 8%, meaning that $1,000 that he left for each city, in 1990, that $1,000 was now $6.5 million because of compound interest. Compound interest is a powerful tool, and obviously time plays a big factor into it. So not only do you want to tap into compounding interest with your money, you want to actually start doing it early. So the sooner you start investing into vehicles that have compound interest, the more value you can get over time. So another takeaway that I really liked from the book was the whole notion of setting financial goals. If you guys know me, you know I'm all about setting goals, right? This is my era. We have a goal setting system, right, with our 90-day planner. But what's interesting about what Tony was talking about is that when you set goals, not only do you have clarity on what those goals are, but more importantly, you start to understand the price of those goals, right? What is the price of your dreams? Because once you really understand, hey, these are my financial dreams, and what is the price it'll take for you to achieve those dreams, you can come up with a plan that will enable you to get to that goal over a set period of time. He also talks about dividing your money into 3 buckets. The first bucket being your security bucket. So think of this as like your peace of mind bucket, right? Where you are investing in very safe investments. So think about cash or cash equivalents. Think about bonds, CDs, and your home. These are safe investments that are not risky, and you really want to have the security bucket so that if things, hit the fan, you're financially secure because you have your security bucket intact. The second bucket he talks about is the growth bucket. So this is where you invest in more riskier investments. So think about stocks, indexes, mutual funds, and things like that, high yield bonds. So by having that risk, high growth bucket in play enables you to actually achieve higher return because high risk, high return. But one thing you need to be comfortable with is that everything that you put into that growth bucket, you can potentially lose it. So you want to make sure you have your security bucket safe and secure, and then you start investing into your growth bucket, knowing that this is higher risk, but can potentially yield higher return. And then the third and last bucket, which is my personal favorite, is the dream bucket, right? So think about putting money aside for that dream vacation, or putting money aside for that summer home you want to own, or if you want to own courtside seats at your favorite team, that's the bucket where you would start to be putting money into. So think about it. The whole notion of the dream bucket is that it's good and great for you to make money, right? But making a lot of money without living the life of your dreams makes that life meaningless. So it's super important that you're putting money aside for those dreams that you've always wanted to achieve, and making sure that you experience those dreams while you're still alive, but also you're covering your security bucket and also your growth bucket and putting a little bit to the side for that dream bucket. So another cool takeaway that I got from the book was that Tony was able to share the all seasons portfolio strategy that Ray Dalio uses to make sure that his portfolio strategy is protected in the economy. If you look over the past 20 years, right, we've had a really good run where the economy has been rocking, it's been a bullish market, and we had a recession, right, that global recession in 2008 where markets went down. So if you're able to leverage this all seasons portfolio strategy that Ray Dalio, who by the way is one of the top hedge fund managers out there, you'll be able to have an investment portfolio that's recession proof and that can survive any economic climate out there. And I'm going to break it down to you how they share the all season strategy in the book. So in the strategy, they say 30% of your portfolio should be stocks. Yes. So 30% is stock. 15% should go to intermediate US bonds. And then 40% will go to long-term US bonds, with 7.5% going to gold and 7.5% going to commodities. Again, I would, encourage you to sit down with a financial advisor or a fiduciary to look into your particular situation and see how you can apply some of these learnings into your strategy. And then the last section that I'm going to share from the book that I really love is around contribution. There's a quote that Tony Robbins shares in the book that says, "The secret to living is giving." So as you're thinking about investing for your future, putting money into your dream bucket, you should always be thinking about how you can donate to causes that you care about and how you can make a difference through contribution. So I found that super insightful that he included that piece of golden nugget in the book, because it's super important for us to contribute and make a difference throughout. So that's why even with This Is My Era, we make a difference with every purchase that we get to help empower kids through education. So although I really liked the book and I learned so much, I think there were a few things that could have been improved in the book. So one of them is that a lot of the advice is really US based. So if it's someone, from another country, so in England, Europe, or wherever, a lot of the material that Tony talks about will be very hard to apply to your own particular situation. So although the concepts are solid, you would really need to sit down with a financial expert in your own country to see how you can actually apply it in your own country. The other con, which is a little bit obvious, is that it's a really big book. So I started reading it and I put it down because, I'd gone through it and it was just too much. But then I went back into it and started reading it again. So you really want to start reading it when you have a lot of time or have a schedule where you can really read and go through all the pages and take notes. Or you could listen to the audio version, because I think you might be able to actually go through all that material much quicker when you go through the audio book rather than trying to read this very, very thick book. So overall, I honestly think everybody should read this book, mainly because, it's super important for you to take control of your financial destiny. And this book shares a lot of tips on how to do that. It talks about how you should really look into every financial instrument, the right questions you need to ask when you're interviewing a financial advisor or fiduciary to help guide you with your financial goals. And it also gives insight on how to really look into and understand the fees that you're paying on financial investment vehicles that you might be invested in, and also strategies to help reduce the amount of tax you get to pay to Uncle Sam, because those are some of the holes in the bucket where you can leak a lot of your financial wealth that would have been hard earned. So I highly encourage for you to read this book. Below, there's a link to the blog where we have even more insights around this book that you can go read. Feel free to drop in some comments about your thoughts and some of the things that you might have learned from the book. And again, don't forget to subscribe so that you get more of the videos that we're going to be creating in the This Is My Era platform. And also, I can't wait for the next book club review. So if you have any tips or books you want me to review, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Remember, you're only one goal away. Go out there and make it your era.